we're beginning to see some pushback and some protests here. This is just amazing footage out of Georgia. Representative Rich McCormick held a town hall in his district yesterday. It's Georgia's seventh congressional district. It's a safe Trump district. He won it by double digits. McCormick won over 60% of the vote. And it actually was gerrymandered a few years ago to push out a Democrat and make it so it was more favorable to Republicans. And this is the crowd he's speaking to here. Here he is. The woman speaking at this town hall is, she says she's a descendant of Patrick Henry, and that's how her comments begin, talking about Trump's declaration of himself as king and the actions that he's taking with the cuts and Doge, etc.
Will be lost forever and tyranny will rise. I believe you know the rest of his speech. Something about give me liberty. It's clear from all the writings of our founding fathers that our great republic was never meant to be ruled by a dictator nor a king. My shock and pure horror when I woke up to find that our president had given himself unprecedented executive powers and then within a few days named himself king to his followers.
Where's the question?
Tyranny.
Do you have a question for the Congress?
I do. Thank you. Tyranny is rising in the White House, and a man has declared himself our king. So I would like to know, rather, the people would like to know what you, congressmen, and your fellow congressmen are going to do to rein in the megalomaniac in the White House.
Listen to those cheers. People are standing up. This is how they respond to his response. Take a photo?
I'm not going to give you my best foghorn leghorn response. But what I was even going to sit down, thank you. When you talk about tyranny, when you talk about presidential power, I remember having the same discussion with Republicans when Biden was elected. The funny thing is, you're sitting here and a lot of you would probably say those January 6s who are yelling just as loud as you.
So I just have to point out that one of the sort of power grabby things Trump is doing is purging the FBI of anybody who investigated January 6th.
Yeah. It's the false equivalence. It does not ring true here. And also to say that in Georgia, where even if people are voting for Trump there, they remember that Georgia was the subject of Trump's most egregious, arguably, that in Arizona, 2020 lies, including the phone call that he made trying to lean on elected Republicans that those same constituents elected to find a couple tens of thousands of votes to put him over the edge to defeat Joe Biden. So that bringing up January 6th there to a Georgia crowd, I don't know about that. And he did not get the reaction he wanted. Let's listen to a little bit more. And then there's another part about Social Security, which is incredible.
Too. Thank you. Let's go ahead and move on because
they chanted shame at him, and then he tried to move on, and they didn't let him. I mean, it's amazing. Here is another part of this town hall, which, it's a shame that Sam isn't here to cover this, because this is exactly what he would have wanted to hear from a crowd. Here is McCormick trying to justify the Republicans' plans to cut mandatory spending, which basically includes Medicare, Medicaid, CHIP, the Children's Health Insurance Program, which is essentially Medicaid for kids, and SNAP, the food assistance program that feeds 41 million Americans a month on average. This is how they reacted to his proposal that it's the Republicans, they're all trying to do it, and Trump in public is saying that he doesn't want to cut Medicaid, but then he endorses the Republican budget plan, which guts Medicaid. Here's that reaction.
Something that I'm willing to compromise on, okay? We have solutions that we agreed on. That I have 4 Democrats that said that they were willing to. We're not going to take it away from anybody who hasn't. We're not going to take it away, change anything for anybody who's about to get it. But maybe if you're 10 years away, you adjust it by 3 months. You're 20 years away, you adjust it by 6 months. You're 30 years away, you adjust it by a year.
Lift the cap.
When you have $36 trillion of debt, and you're the world currency, you're the standard world currency, and you're paying $1 trillion of debt interest per year, is not going to fix the eventual economic collapse of the United States. It's just not. It's just not. If you don't do something with Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, which is 75% of our budget, is mandatory spending. 75%. Google it right now. 75% of your budget is mandatory spending. We have a 30% deficit. If you cut all of your military and all of your discretionary spending, you still have a shortfall. We are heading towards a cliff of where we will no longer be the economic standard of the world, which we've been since 1972, and you will lose your place in history, you'll lose your buying power, your interest rate will go up, and you'll add $9 trillion.
We're all trying to get through this. Let's be respectful while the congressman speaks.
Nobody can hear when you're yelling.
Oh, no one can hear when you're yelling? Oh, no, your constituents are mad at you because you're talking about in coded language, cutting into the most threadbare safety net, in the Western world, basically. I mean, we barely have a social safety net in this country. People love Social Security and Medicare in particular, and they're not buying his BS here. Someone just chanted, raise the cap.
It's not time to be quiet and listen to this sort of charlatan. It's time to scream him out of the room and make yourself heard. Right. This guy, this thing where they say lift the cap, and he goes into some sort of Chicken Little scenario about the government collapsing. We need to lift that cap and also just generally raise taxes on the type of people that put that guy in power. It is very simple. And the crowd knows that. The crowd says not only lift the cap, raise taxes. If we're in such a dire financial situation, why are people that you go to lunch with so flush? Why are their pockets so goddamn full? Everyone sees that. Everyone
sees it because we have been slashing taxes over and over and over again. And all they're trying to do here is justify an extension of the 2017 Trump tax cuts, which, yes, it cut taxes broadly, but you know who got a majority of the tax cuts? The people at the very top. And that's how income and wealth inequality gets exacerbated. And specifically what the Republicans are trying to do, not about Social Security, we know what the answer is. I mean, amazing that audience just yelled it out to him. Because as Matt says, if you're worried about the budget, there's a really, really easy way to solve it. It's raise taxes on the rich so that you can cut into the deficit. But when it comes to Social Security, first of all, yeah, it's self-funding, but it's lagging behind in terms of making sure that it's as protected as possible, because we refuse to raise the cap on income that is taxable that would help make it so that it is protected, because there's so much wealth concentrated at the top that is not subjected to the Social Security tax, because the threshold right now as of 2025 is around 176K. Then that, if you make 177K, all of that money that you're getting is not subjected to taxes that go towards Social Security. And when we have exacerbated wealth inequality, that means there's more money above that threshold. It's ridiculous. It should be, you could eliminate the cap and fund it so much so that the benefits increase. But even if you just raise it, we would be able to solve this situation entirely, but they don't want to tell you that.
Because the real thing isn't balancing the budget. The real solution, and it needs to be stated so clearly for people, is to give tax breaks to the people that put them in power. So that's why when they say like they have, if they politically speaking, they would like to not have to go after Social Security and all these programs. They obviously want to get rid of them. They hate people being served, but ultimately they hate how much it's costing them. And like if there was as much waste in the government as they said they would, they wouldn't be needing to even look at these programs, but they will, because ultimately all they care about is more money at the end of the day for their rich donors.
And they also don't like the fact that Social Security, when you start to be eligible for it as a senior when you're 65, it may keep you out of the workforce, and they don't have the ability to continue to have an expanded pool of desperate people who have to work, although there are still many people above that retirement age who still have to work. He's also not correct about the percentage of what's mandatory spending. It's not 70%, it's closer to 61%. But what they're going for with the Republican budget is specifically Medicaid, which covers around 71 million people. But they're going to go after the 20 million people that were added under the Affordable Care Act expansion, which is probably the easiest for them to do. And Medicaid is for people who are of lower income in our country, people who have disabilities. That's the folks that they want to target. And those will be the folks on the front lines because they're afraid of that third rail of Social Security and Medicare, even though they will try to cut that too. But the people that are going to be first who are immiserated by this Republican budget will be the poorer Americans and disabled Americans, with Medicaid being in their crosshairs right now. Oh, and also they're going to try to privatize Medicare and make it more Medicare Advantage, which is more costly, more inefficient,
more fraud laden,
but it makes some people rich. So I guess that's all that matters.
It would be nice if the press could stop crediting this as some sort of efficiency and cost savings measure, and not just a bunch of rich people grabbing bags.
Right. Exactly right.
Hey folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.